So, we're here to answer some questions posted in a video from 2 weeks ago about marriage and parenthood. The questions were posted as a comment by Mark. Thank you, Mark. And these are the 3 questions. What are some of the biggest pet peeves you two have of each other?
Ooh.
What are some things that the other says or doesn't say that tends to drive you up the wall? And then for the things that you two were able to move forward from, how did you go about addressing those things and how did you compromise?
I'll start.
For reference, I don't know what's coming, so I'm actually really excited. Wait, am I gonna be like hurt or is it?
Maybe I won't hurt you.
Oh.
But there is a pet peeve. So I'm gonna talk about that. So my biggest pet peeve is that you tend to break up all of your long extended talks into 3 segments.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of like a movie. So there's this trailer and he discloses the exciting but important parts. And then second part is the long extended explained probably hour, maybe 2 hour long thing.
What?
And then at the end, you just make sure everyone is on the same page, you do a recap. He does a recap. Okay, so this is where we started. This is why we got here. These are the reasons why we decided to do this. This is the plan. Are we on agreement? And then we end the discussion.
Wait, but then it's a discussion, right? Then usually I feel like I might be wrong, but usually it's open to discussion.
It's open. So it's not just me sitting there watching the movie for 2.5 hours, but it sort of feels like that.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
What? It's true.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
It's true.
That's
and
amazing.
then by the time you do the disclosing part, I'm like, here we go again. Let's start from point A, going on to point B.
Oh, I love it. So I think my pet peeve for you is she has this habit of starting and not finishing things, or just leaving things as they are. So an example will be if she cooks, she'll do a great job cooking and she's an amazing cook, but then she'll just leave everything sprawled out the way that it is. So the countertop is just a mess. The sink is a disaster. The stovetop is there's food, but there's just chaos. And this extends everywhere. So she'll do a live in the living room, for her community or something, women's health, whatever. And then it's just, I come in, it's just chaos. Whereas I put everything back. Another example, she'll start doing something like a project, putting up wallpaper she did in our room. And if something gets in the way and distracts her, it'll pull her away from it completely and then it'll just remain undone. So there's it's not a very long list, but there's kind of a short list of maybe long-term things that just haven't been completed, and then very short-term things that just happen. A perfect example, before we shot this video, she had made herself a protein shake to drink. She drank half of it, left it over there, and forgot she had a drink. And then I was over near the kitchen. She was like, oh yeah, I have a drink over there. She's like, baby, could you bring me my drink? I forgot I had it. And I'm like, how did you drink half of a drink and forget the... So that extends to just half cups of water being around, half cups of coffee being around, food 3/4 eaten, it's just sitting there. So it doesn't, to be frank, it doesn't actually really bother me, but it's kind of one of those things that, I would prefer it didn't happen, but it doesn't make me irritated. It's just kind of, I look at it, I'm like, what? How did you half drink a cup of coffee?
I just don't remember. I don't know. I come back from work and I'm like, oh, I think I did make myself coffee.
So
it's pretty bad, I know.
Number 2. So what are some things that the other says or does or doesn't say or do that tends to drive you up the wall? You can start.
So one thing he tends to say when we get in a heated conversation or argument,
I know what it is,
but doesn't it make sense logically?
It's kind of
Oh my God. From a girl perspective, it's can you just leave that and connect as a person? And so it gets really hard for me because I'm a very in the moment emotional person. But when he tried to sort of analyze everything logically, I'm like, well, it might not make a lot of sense, but it does to me right now. But I think the logic equals like right or good maybe for you.
My quote but it's true?
Yeah, it's true. So I'm like, yes, it's true, but, and so I think that's
fair.
something that drives me up the wall.
So something that she does or says that drives me up the wall is when I'm coming to some conclusion in some conversation and she knows what the conclusion is, she knows I'm going for it. And so when we get there, even if it makes complete sense, she just refuses to give me the solution. Right? And I'm looking at her and I'm like, wait a minute. 1 + 1 = 2. And she's like, and she knows it's 2, but she's like, I will not give it to you.
But there are all these feelings around that, and there's like
2 with feelings around it, but
whenever you say that, what I always feel like is like that's always true.
Yeah.
But there are emotions and feelings between that. So without addressing those feelings and just skipping right to the answer, the conclusion isn't necessarily right. So for my points, like, but you're missing out on all of this, like, the fluff, which is probably just fluff for you, but for me it's like an important part of like the process to get to whatever right answer it is.
So I have to learn to better appreciate the feelings / the fluff.
I can only call it the fluff.
The fluff. So that's my thing. So they're actually directly related. So hers would be related to our conversations, and mine's probably related to the conversations as well. And then, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And then for 3 is really interesting. That's like the only thing. I think if I think about pet peeves or things that really drive me up the wall, she doesn't do other things that bother me. Like she doesn't chew. You don't chew weird. You don't sleep weird. You don't snore weird. Like there's no, like you don't dress weird. Like there's nothing. You don't have other things that I'm like, oh, I wish you didn't do that. Like actually, you don't have those things, which is amazing because I have been in relationships and that is really common. So it's really interesting. But that's probably just the one thing we have conversations. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then lastly, for the things that you two were able to move forward from, how did you go about addressing those things and how did you compromise? So I think one of the things that we struggled with early on was how to put Jasmine to bed. And one of the strategies we had was basically the standard kind of strap her in and bounce her, or just hold her and bounce her until she falls asleep, and then put her in her crib, and then the 2 of us go to bed in the bed. But what ended up happening is it just became easier to sleep with her in the bed so that Risa could breastfeed her, she'd fall asleep, and then she would just sleep with us. So that's kind of where we settled on. And I think it was contentious in the beginning because she wanted me to hold the baby half the time and bounce her and all that. And then I think we kind of just settled on like, oh, this is actually just easier. And we really do like sleeping with her, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. My original plan was to do a whole sleep training. I read 4 books about sleep training during my pregnancy. I had everything that I needed to know. But it was
kind of just naturally deteriorated.
Yeah, it didn't go as planned. Which I'm okay with. I mean, obviously it being like the 3rd child as well. Like she's my 3rd child. So I don't know if I'll ever have another chance to like really spend time with the baby. So I'm just sort of appreciating the time with Jazzy right now.
Yeah. So that's probably one of those that kind of just worked out. We did talk about it quite a bit, and I think in terms of how did you go about addressing those things, every time we talk about things, we just talk about it. We like sit down and have some conversation. And I don't know if that's how this one resolved or if this actually just kind of naturally ended up happening. But we definitely had a conversation about it. We were both on team, let's build the perfect sleep schedule for Jasmine. And then again, it just didn't really end up working out the way that we wanted. But now, like, it's worked out in a way in which works. Like, Jasmine sleeps with us. We're both very happy about it. We love, like, holding her in bed. It's really nice. And it's a limited window. Like, we're not going to be sleeping with her forever. So I think we're both kind of just cherishing that time with her. So anyways, that's the answer to all 3 questions. Mark, thank you for asking. And for those of you who are watching for the first time, if you've got questions, please drop them in the comments. We're genuinely happy to answer in this format any questions you guys have for us. And if you haven't already, please remember to like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos. Thanks for watching, guys. So we're here to answer some questions posted.
You got this! Come on!